Ubisoft reportedly has lawyers ready to fight Assassin's Creed Shadows harassment. Ubisoft reportedly has an anti-harassment plan in place for Assassin's Creed Shadows developers. Ubisoft reportedly implements anti-harassment plan for Assassin's Creed Shadow devs. Source claims the developer is advising employees not to share their involvement on social media. So Ubisoft is proving once again that their priorities are completely out of touch with reality, and instead of focusing on making a really good game, they're gearing up for battle against online harassment. And I say that in quotations, before the game was even out. And this tells you everything that you need to know about how much faith they have in their product. Because if the game were solid, if it truly lived up to expectations, they wouldn't be preemptively circling the wagon like this. And they probably are expecting, people to be upset about it or what have you. Like a lot of people have been complaining about the game or things that they've seen based on the footage that was released. And so they're expecting the backlash. That happens with games coming out. Yeah, rather than fixing the issues that would cause that backlash, they're trying to silence it. So this was at the top of the article where it said, the article previously stated, according to the original report, Ubisoft had presented an anti-online harassment plan to the CSE, which is the name of Canada's National Cryptological Agency. Although the source article does refer to the CSE, and says the plan was initiated in Canada, the CSE in question actually refers to the Comité Social et Économique. I don't know. I don't speak French anymore. A group formed by Ubisoft's Canadian staff as opposed to the Canadian governmental agency. Okay, so that was just an update on the article for something that they made a mistake on. Surely, okay, whatever. But they still, at the top, presented an anti-online harassment plan. Honestly, this whole move is kind of misguided, and I'm gonna explain why. Because to everybody that is looking onward, it seems as though, just based on their track record and how developers are right now with the consumer populace, that they are misusing anti-harassment efforts to shield themselves from getting criticized. Ubisoft specifically wants to paint themselves as victims of harassment, when in reality, they're trying to shut down any form of backlash. I don't know what's going on. Maybe there's some legal stuff going on with their company and it being sold. I have no idea. But they're going hard with this. And we know darn well it's not about them protecting their employees, like from legitimate threats. It's basically them making sure that people can't call out their bad decisions and the overall decline of their company and their games without being labeled as toxic. As I've said before in the past with other videos, it seems as though it's a classic corporate deflection tactic, shift the conversation away from the quality of the game. And look over here, look at these people who are being whatever name you want to call them that day of the week. And I just find it so interesting that they have all the resources to supposedly fight this criticism, but not to make good games. Imagine you have an entire legal team on standby, ready to fight online harassment, but not having the resources or talent to ensure that your game is polished, that it's creative, and worthy of the Assassin's Creed name. If Ubisoft can afford to prep an anti-backlash task force, for want of a better phrase, why can't they make sure that their game launches in a good state? And this was with every developers, because games are coming out now full priced, not finished. And this just makes it more obvious that Ubisoft especially expects that the game is going to be riddled with issues, whether it's the gameplay or the whole identity politic thing nonsense that people are going on about. But it's not like they haven't been circling the drain for a while. Their whole reputation is just shit. Their games, from what everyone has seen, has gone from, this is a great game by Ubisoft or what have you, and everything just feels really corporate. Everything feels like a cash grab, a gimmick. You have all these endless delays in these games. Their stock prices suffered. They're closing studios, and even their most loyal fans are losing patience. But instead of focusing or turning the ship around and trying to be like, guys, we messed up here. Let's try and have a better reputation with our consumers whom we want to buy our products. They're doubling down on being defensive. What's that phrase again for when you're trying hard to put out a fire with flames and then you end up making it worse or something, like the Oedipus complex? I think it's Oedipus, whatever how you pronounce it. You're trying so hard to run away from something, you end up running into it. But what this basically does is ensures that they're going to have more controversy. Now everyone's going to be talking about this policy rather than the game itself. Remember, there was when we were little, years ago, I think they were called the Fine Brothers or something like that. I don't remember. There was this reaction channel with these two dudes, and they were like, we're gonna sue people for the word react. And like everyone got on their ass. All it does is it encourages people to push back even harder because they're going to be like, oh, really? You're trying to shut us up? We're consumers. You want us to spend our money and we can't criticize you? We can't say anything about that? Oh, watch. Oh, what? You will never see the internet unite until there is something that is trying to come up against the internet itself. That is just really freaking weird behavior. And nobody likes being told what they can and cannot criticize. Now, it is different if you're legitimately like death threatening or calling to action certain threatening situations against one person. Yes, I can completely understand that. But we've seen a lot of these developers take genuine criticism as harassment or toxicity from fans or people who were tourists. Like, some of them have legitimately said that.
Today is a string of tweets from developers that are just completely out of touch with reality. If you have a customer base and you're selling something, the last thing you want to do is go ahead and insult that customer base that's paying you because, you know, they might not pay you anymore. They might say, hey, you know, I'm not supporting you guys anymore. Go screw yourself.
So them saying it's harassment, we know that that's a play for criticize because that's what they've shown us in the past. And the internet is going to see this as a challenge, and Ubisoft's attempt to control the narrative is going to blow back up in their asshole so freaking far up there, they're going to be puking shit. This never works out. It's never worked out for anyone in history. And if they're going to do that in Canada, how are you going to implement this in Japan, the United States, everywhere else? It's funny how these people will do everything except admit like they've lost the goodwill of the gaming community, which they have. And this really isn't about protection. They're just trying to pretend it is, and they're shielding themselves from their consequences, which, yeah, it sucks. I understand. You got a company, it's not doing well. You believe it's doing well, but the consumers are telling you, hey, dude, we do not want this. This is bad. This sucks. And you're getting upset with the consumers for not consuming something that they don't want to consume. So what, you want to violate them and shove it down their throats and force them to accept it? How is that going to help? All it's going to serve is that person is going to end up vomiting back in your face. Again, I always find it so freaking hilarious, like almost to the point of being cartoonishly silly, how these companies all of a sudden find the time and the energy and the efficiency like a well-oiled machine when it comes to fighting backlash and criticism, but you cannot put the same freaking effort into maintaining that good relationship with your community. All these delays, unfinished releases, buggy messes that are like, you know, oh wow, this is $70 for this half-finished game, and they always need a day one patch. All of that considered, it's like mainstream now. But the moment their reputation that they have foiled, they fumble the bag, and they're like, oh crap, people are upset about this, they have to pay this much money, and the game is shit. All of a sudden, full legal teams, PR divisions, crisis management. I mean, it's like a government nationwide reaction, like a well-oiled military operation. Where is the efficiency when your games need proper quality control or what have you? Or your employees need better working conditions instead of burning out? Or your fan base was giving clear feedback on what they actually wanted? Where was that? Oh no, that's hard work. That's really hard work. It is so much easier to censor and police online people or the internet, or so you think it is, than to actually fix fundamental issues that you're being paid for that you expect consumers to give you money for. And one thing about gamers, like there's the internet and then there's the trolls and then there's the hackers, there's all these different type of groups, but I have noticed that gamers in particular are notoriously resistant to corporate nonsense, and they have extremely long memories. Trying to control criticism is going to amplify it in this case, specifically the way that they're doing it. And the internet itself is going to push back so freaking hard. So this article continues and it says, the game's director, Charles Benoit, has defended the decision, previously telling the Canadian press that Yasuke was also chosen so that players can discover Japan through the eyes of a foreigner at the same time he does. Nevertheless, slicing up the Japanese people. Okay. Anyway, nevertheless, the decision has led to anger from some of the sections of the video game community, which has reportedly led to Ubisoft making preparations for potential harassment incidents that may occur after the game is released. According to French publication BFM TV, bitch for men, I'm kidding, Ubisoft has put in place a system designed to protect its employees, with one staff member reportedly telling the publication, "We're advised not to post on social media that we work at Ubisoft to avoid harassment." Ubisoft is pulling out one of the most overused, I wouldn't say overused, but it's a trick. Like, they always do this. They're basically saying, or they're making it about harassment. They're pretending the issue is about harassment so that they can deflect from legitimate criticism. I will say it's overused, yeah, because they've done it. A lot of media companies, corporations have done the same thing. And the thing is, nobody sane supports personal harassment of game developers. That's ridiculous. And yes, if it's legitimate harassment, I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. I just want to see what this game is. Wait. Project DX. Wait, what the frick is happening? What the frick is going on? Is this game, is it an app? Durango. What the frick is Durango? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm getting so freaking off track here. How am I just now hearing about this? What the frick is this? Oh my god, all the dinosaur games that are coming out. Where was I? God damn it. God damn it. Give me a minute. Yeah, sorry about that. Took me a while. Jesus Christ. I hate when my brain does that, man. Okay, what were we saying? The game's director, Charles Minoy, had defended the decision, Japan's arrested for... I'm so sorry. So yeah, when the guy saying this through these three paragraphs... Oh yes, we're not advised to post on social media that we work at Ubisoft to avoid harassment. And then the guy was talking about Yasuke was chosen so that players can discover Japan through the eyes of a foreigner. Okay, look, I understand that people, are upset about Yasuke, and it's not that people hate Yasuke. Yasuke is actually a very well-loved character. People know that he existed. Everyone knows it. There's been countless games, there's been anime about him. So that's not the issue here.
He really does a lovely job of connecting the dots historically, what we know factually, and then narratively. We had so much fun imagining the kind of person who would have this trajectory.
Yasuke has been featured in many creative writings and media so far. There's like a long list of novels, TV series, dramas that have been inspired by him.
Now, I think the reason why people are coming to this conclusion is because there have been interviews and articles where they're saying, a lot of meticulous historical research went into creating this game. And the reason that they're probably doing this is so they can be historically accurate when it comes to the world building of the game. But then people are upset because it's like, okay, now you're trying so hard and claiming that you're researching, but the Japanese are saying that the stuff that they claim they researched is actually Chinese imagery, and they care about historical research when it comes to creating the world, but not totally. And a lot of people are also upset because they claim that Assassin's Creed Shadows is also ignoring real historical context. And you see in this article, it says here, the historical research for Assassin's Creed Shadow began early in the game's conception. We integrated internal historians and specialists into the team. Oh dear, you should fire some of those people. Additionally, we collaborated with external time period specialists and historians from Japan and around the world to ensure a comprehensive understanding of the era. This meticulous process covered everything from architecture and gestures to clothing, prop details, and character development, to name a few. Interesting. So they did say, while the game is grounded in representation of feudal Japan, Assassin's Creed Shadows is ultimately a work of fiction. Therefore, some creative choices were made to enhance the gameplay and narrative experience. And a lot of people are criticizing this because we've seen the media do this over and over again, where they will be like, Ghost of Tsushima did it. But Ghost of Tsushima, people are saying that the developers actually respected the historical culture and they managed to craft this immersive experience, but Ubisoft is coming off like this is a gimmick to justify their poor product decisions. And of course, people are taking issue with some of the footage that have come out against Yasuke, or the main character, going into a shrine and like blasting it to pieces. And they're like, well, the player chose to do that. We didn't do it. They're choosing to do it. But the fact that it was developed in order to be destroyed, I guess, was an issue that a lot of people brought to the forefront. And I've done a video on that already, talking about that. So yeah, that is a discussion to be had separately. But this whole backlash thing, Ubisoft and people who are defending them, you have these people defending the corporations like they owe them money or something. It's good to have like a fandom, and you appreciate the company and stuff like that, and have good discourse, but people are actually going after people like to the point of sadness and it being really pathetic and very telling Because it's like you're going after someone who personally has an issue and is criticizing the game and making statements such as, wow, the game looks like they could have done this better. I don't like how they rewrote this. I wish they would have done this. And this isn't the first time people have taken issue with other like Assassin's Creed games for whatever reason. But the number one critique of people defending it or the company themselves always bring up is, oh, well, people hate Yasuke because he's black. Ubisoft and the people who are defending them, they're always making that, well, I'm not going to say Ubisoft, but particularly the people who are defending them, a lot of them, the first thing that you ever hear them say is to frame people criticizing the game as just racist trolls. And I think that's very disingenuous or very ignorant at the very least, because there are also many black gamers that they're not on board with how Ubisoft is handling this. I mean, representation is important. And they were like, okay, so yeah, the first Japanese thing and you couldn't, why are you putting us in this situation? I made a video about that as well, with this underhanded way people are using black people as shields, knowing that they're going to be targeted. People do not appreciate that. And all it is the black community or Caribbeans or people in Africa, whatever African country, they're calling this out because they're like, we understand that you're being used as a diversity prop or what have you. And the frustration doesn't really seem to be that Yasuke exists. Like I said, people are having issue because it feels as though Ubisoft is shoehorning Yasuke into a narrative where he does things he likely never did, while simultaneously removing important historical figures that would have fit the era better or the story particularly better. And instead of taking the opportunity to tell an authentic story about a real black figure in history, they're turning him into a corporate checkbox character, and that's what people are taking issue with. And you have to wonder why nobody had an issue with Yasuke in all the other forms and art forms that he was in, like the woman mentioned, the films, comics, everything. Everybody loves Yasuke. But why, particularly with this game in particular, people have an issue? They can't be racist when they like him in almost everything else, but have an issue with how he's being presented here. That is enough of a reason to sit down and be like, okay, where is the disconnect? What is it about this game in particular that is the issue with Yasuke? And that's why you have people, you know, in this article are like, oh, well, nevertheless, the decision has led to anger from some sections of the video game community, which has reportedly led to Ubisoft making preparations for potential harassment incidents that may occur after the game is released. You know what this feels like? You know what this feels like? This feels like Godzilla, like stomping through a city, right? He's mad at everything. He's like, I'm gonna fuck the city up. You know, buildings, cars, infrastructure, is wiping out everything in his path, swinging his tail around, and some debris flies in your direction. He's not even aiming it at you. You're several blocks away. Everyone is evacuating the area, and you're standing there watching. And, you know, he's not mad at you in particular. It's the freaking people firing at him or whatnot, right? So his anger is not aimed towards you. He's just destroying what's in front of him. He's just walking and destroying everything in front of him. Now, instead of you being like, you know what, let me leave, he'll die down, or let me try and fix the issue that's causing him to freaking rage out. Clearly, maybe I have freaking Ghidorah's mechanical head in there or whatever, you know, Mecha Godzilla, and Ghidorah's head is still being used to control the thing that's threatening Godzilla. Let me get rid of that. My bad, Godzilla. I wasn't trying to threaten you. I wasn't trying to challenge you for your kaiju throne or what have you, right? But instead of doing that and staying out of it as a civilian, you know, you grab a rocket launcher. You have nothing to do with it. You're not part of the government. You're not part of the people responsible for, challenging him unknowingly with this Ghidorah head. But you decide that you're going to grab a freaking rocket launcher or your 22 pistol or what have you and run up straight to Godzilla's freaking toenail and start firing. Well, congratulations, dumbass. Now you have all of Godzilla's rage focused directly on you. You weren't even the main target, but now you are. And now Godzilla's looking at you like, the fuck? What were you thinking? Like, you didn't just choose violence. You chose freaking death 70 times over, bruh. Now you're about to get it. That's exactly what Ubisoft is doing here. I'm all for people standing up against actual legitimate harassment. Nobody should be personally attacked, doxxed, or spammed with nonsense that has nothing to do with the game. I mean, it's beyond criticism at that point. Now you're just being an asshole just to be an asshole. I mean, that's the internet too. But as long as you're not going to someone's personal space, like their house, as long as you're not calling to action harm against them, like a lot of these people have done. But if this is really about like suing people for complaining or criticizing a product, then fine. You know what? As long as you keep that same energy, if consumers are leaving legitimate reviews or expressing dislike for the game, and, that suddenly counts as harassment, all right, keep that same energy then. Developers and companies who attack or mock their audience should also be then open to lawsuits. If Ubisoft's employees start belittling, harassing, or insulting players for not liking the game, or just voicing their opinion that has nothing to do personally with the people working on the game, those consumers should have the same right to call it harassment and then take legal action, right? Like, you see how this starts to become a dangerous, slippery slope where corporations are trying to weaponize the legal system to shut down criticism? I mean, we've had this happen with Disney several times, Nintendo several times. It never works out for them. They end up bleeding massive amounts of money. Let's not pretend also that, people out there, they're confused or like, oh my God, look at these gamers, how awful they are. Bro, this did not randomly happen out of nowhere. Developers and AAA studios were the ones first harassing their own fan base, calling them toxic, and if they criticize the game, they're like, man, I spent $70 on this. Man, I spent $59.99 on this. I'm doing a review. I do not like this game. What are they thinking? And then they're calling these people toxic and outright harassing them. They like call out people, ask for their things to be shut down, their profiles to be shut down, their Steam accounts to be shut down. I mean, there's video upon video upon video, people sitting there acting like, oh my God, these people are so awful. Why don't you look into why that is happening? This didn't just come out of nowhere. Open up your freaking brain. No, don't do that. It's probably already open. That's why everything's falling out. Close your brain for a second and think.
Think, Mark!
Use the last remaining little atoms in there and think. Think about why there is a reaction. For every action, there is a reaction. And if people are reacting this strongly, it bears reasoning that there might be some reason why they're acting like that. Bees don't just come out of nowhere and start stinging people. Okay, some of them do. Some of them will see you and like, you know what? Especially the wasps. They'll be like, damn, I just want to sting someone right now. Like, you're not even in my territory, but I just wish you were, and you're not walking over here. Someone come sting you. Like, there's that happens. I understand that. But for the most part, consumers want good products, and they're not just going to come out there and be like, oh my God, we're just going to keep getting madder and madder and madder and madder no matter what happens, unless something started them down that path, and mocking them for simply not liking a product they paid for is how that started.
But I've seen this tweet right here. The community manager for @Playtonic Games, which if you guys don't know, they're the ones who made Yooka-Laylee. That's the only thing I know them for, is that irrelevant ass game. Hates white men and Asians. Well, let's go ahead and have a look at some of the tweets actually put out by the community manager of Playtonic Games. Imagine being a white man in this industry and just shutting the fuck up. Huh, hold on a minute. There's something about this tweet that's just ironic, but I can't put my finger on it. Do you guys see it? I don't know, am I the only one noticing this here? Dude, you're literally a white man yourself. Why are you saying this? In fact, why don't you go ahead and take your own advice? Trust me, the entire gaming community would be extremely thankful for it. Is he one of those people who enjoys, like, the humiliation fetish shit? Like, where he just enjoys degrading himself?
Because these people got greedy. These corporations are greedy. Remember, you're going up against corporations who look down on people. They've gotten so big to the point where they feel like they can monopolize the industry and straight up tell people, shut your mouth. You're not allowed to criticize us. We're too big and we have more money than you. And yeah, if you start criticizing us and our feelings get hurt and we have to take account for what we've done, we'll just shut you up with more of our money. Completely forgetting that it's the people's money that got you where you are in the first fucking place. The reason gamers have gotten this loud is because they've been pushed into a corner and gaslit for so many years. Same thing with the audience. This is not just in the gaming industry. It's in the media industry in general. So if you want protection for devs, that's fine. But just understand that protection should go both ways. And it's going to get really nasty. And the people who are going to get deaded the first, like, not only deaded like, actual physically, but I mean like their career, their business is going to go under. This has happened throughout history. The ones that are going to get deaded first is the ones that have more to lose. You may think, oh, in the short run, I can just clean out that person, get them locked up in the lawsuits. Try doing that with millions of people. See how that works out for you. Try doing that when people start coming out against you and saying, wow, I was criticizing. I just happened to be an Asian person or a Hispanic person or a black person. And I feel like I was being discriminated against from, I was being censored while this person over here is allowed to do whatever. This white developer over here, I don't care if he's gay or whatnot. I mean, people will start to do the oppression Olympics just like these corporations are doing. But the problem is the corporations feel like they can play chicken with a massive entity that is the internet. That's what freaking is wild to me. And I just hope that people see this. I'm glad that people are banding together to call it out for what it is. And that being said, like I said, I know I repeated myself several times, but just to end on that note, it is freaking hilarious. It is freaking hilarious how they are floundering. And yet this gigantic corporation who has all of the people's money that they've had no problem taking for all these years, all of a sudden now is playing victim because we are criticizing them about how they use that money. And criticizing them for expecting us to spend more of our money on something that we don't agree we should spend our money on. Most of us are having those criticisms, whether it be, hey, this is kind of bland, man, I don't like this. Even if you want to talk about or criticize characters in a video game, they're not actually the real characters. You do realize that, right? Like, I feel like people are missing that part of their understanding, the ability to differentiate from fantasy and reality, that the game characters they're not real. Irony, I know.
People have spoken.
And they're criticizing mostly how things are being handled with this company. But now you're gonna draw extra attention to yourself by preparing yourself for a fight that you cannot win. The internet is chaotic. It's an uncontrollable beast. And the moment you try to control it, it will fucking destroy you. And the thing is, it's not even like, okay, it was a free game or what have you. You're asking people for money for this game. And other companies have tried this before, right? Mass Effect Andromeda tried to defend their poor animations and writing by attacking the critics, and the game bombed. Saints Row 2022, when the developers mocked their audience for not liking the reboot. It flopped hard. Forspoken, where instead of addressing the game's flaws, the discourse became about toxic gamers. The game was forgotten within months. So every single time a company tries to police criticism, instead of fixing their game, they take a massive L. Ubisoft is just next in line for that same treatment based on the way that they're rolling right now. You'd think if they really actually cared about, our employees, we care about them being harassed and their well-being, then fix the terrible working conditions. Because this is the same company that had employees walk out due to the toxic leadership. I mean, they're the company that had all this crunch culture that led to employee burnout and all of these people resigning. Actually listen to your players, listen to the feedback that they're giving you instead of fighting the very people who you expect to give you money. I don't know why this is rocket science. And instead of all that, they're like, you know what, guys, don't post on social media that you work here, because, maybe that's for the best, but think about it. What kind of message is that sending? Like, you're expecting the game's reception is going to be so freaking bad that your employees need to hide? If they're not actively doing anything or blasting their foolishness on social media to misrepresent your company, then it shouldn't be an issue. But then I understand why they may want to do this, because from the track record, that never works out when employees don't know how to keep their freaking mouth shut and to stop antagonizing the consumers. We all agree that harassment is bad, but this is not what this is about. They're freaking lying. Ubisoft is preparing for criticism, not harassment, but criticism to them, because they don't like being criticized, they don't want to have to be held accountable for anything, is equal to harassment for them. And all they're trying to do is blur the line between the two so they can justify shutting down negative feedback altogether. You can see even on Ubisoft's website that they put that there, and everything's gonna fall into that sour bucket. But the whole we're advised not to post on social media thing, that we work at Ubisoft to avoid harassment, that right there tells you everything you need to know about their mentality. Also, I think that it is paramount for these people to sit down with their employees and, I'm sorry, risk suing them. Why are you suing the consumers? Risk suing the employees, because if they're the ones that are misrepresenting your company and going out there in bad faith and making your company look bad, that should be on them. Regardless of the reason we know they're doing it, I do still think it's the right call, because time and time again, game developers and company reps have proven they cannot help themselves from provoking their own customers or the consumers, the people they want to buy their game. And it makes everybody look bad. It makes all the developers look bad. So people are there looking, they're like, oh, I might buy this game. And then they see how it's being marketed. And yes, they're not actually marketing it this way, but that's what you're putting forward. That's the face that you're putting forward. So people are going to see that and be like, ick, no, I don't want to have to do anything with these people. They're looking at me, looking down on me. And then you expect me to spend money on your stuff. Like, gamers don't just wake up in the morning and stretch and say, you know what? I'm going to harass a bitch ass game developer today. That's not how it works. Maybe there's some people that are like that. I don't think the majority of them are. And there are usually two reasons why people will absolutely rip into someone online, right? Especially when it comes to like this kind of thing. It's either one, they said something incredibly stupid, Or 2, they said something that sounded stupid that was probably misinterpreted or misunderstood and it pissed people off. That is it. Or in the very rare Chris Pratt exception, you just exist and you're neutral and you become a target for no reason, but because you didn't choose a side or you're not making that your identity like everybody else is. The problem is that Ubisoft employees and many game developers in general have a track record of doing number 1 and 2 all of the damn time. So they go on social media, they mock the consumers, call everybody racist and toxic, insult their own fan base, call them all these names, and then they act shocked and horrified and victimized when they get a tidal wave of backlash. You wanted to poke the internet bear, and when the bear turned around and bit you for putting your thumb up its ass, you get mad and want to put it down. This part sent me. It says, Ubisoft also reportedly has a psychological and legal support in place for employees who are targeted because of their association with the game. And activity on social media platforms will be monitored by a dedicated team backed by lawyers, ready to file complaints where necessary. Bro, this is so pitiful. It's so freaking pitiful. It's actually goddamn hilarious. We're gonna fight the powers that be, the powers whose money you want. Like, it's just weird. You're not in witness protection. You made a product, people didn't like it, they criticize it, deal with it. This whole attitude is so narcissistic and childish. Oh my God, if you're so delicate that criticism sends you into a panic attack. I mean, and I understand, like there's situations where someone is defaming your character, spreading lies about you that can hurt your reputation. All of those things, I completely understand. Those people deserve to get sued. People calling to action for people to have something done to them, yes, definitely. But this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about actual criticism, which the majority of gamers have done. They may say, wow, this company sucks. This company's freaking stupid. Look at what they've done. Look at how the CEO is acting. That is criticism. You have no business being in this industry if your nuts are made of freaking glass. Like, if you don't want people criticizing your work, I don't know, here's a wild concept. Don't be online. Do not make a Twitter X page. Don't go on Reddit. Don't run your mouth on any platform expecting a warm hug from the internet, especially when your products have been ass. And most people would even say, shut the fuck up and do your job like game developers used to do. It is so freaking pathetic that Ubisoft is trying to monitor social media, because that's exactly what they're trying to do, with a dedicated legal team just to silence people. And it's obvious to everybody with eyes and ears that this isn't harassment. This is not about harassment. They don't give a damn about that. It's 100% about censoring criticism. They don't want people calling them out for their laziness. It's really pathetic. And it makes you wonder, like, you don't see other publishers really doing this. Like, the majority of them. I mean, they have their own issues, but the majority of publishers aren't doing this. When you're a big company, you're gonna catch some flack for things and business decisions that you make. Like EA with the stupid microtransaction stuff that people got mad at. Activision, you know, Blizzard has been multiple scandals that they've had. Lawsuits, Bethesda, they released Fallout 76. Sometimes that's all it takes. You just gotta release something. But even those people knock on plastic or wood or whatever surface you want to bathe your knuckles with. They know better than to pull this kind of stunt. So far, from what I've seen, Ubisoft is the only one, as of the time of this video, pulling this preemptive strike against harassment nonsense, because they're lighting their own company on fire and then acting surprised when people are like, wow, haha, look at what you're doing. You're an idiot. Then they're all like, oh, we kindly ask you not to spoil the experience for others. Think of the players. If I like something and I genuinely like it, there is nothing anyone can say to me that will spoil the experience for me. Okay, maybe if they show me like a scene with some really disgusting stuff in it, I'm just like, ugh, gross. Okay, but I like the rest of the game though. That's not gonna stop me. Like Prometheus and Covenant, it took me a while to realize that those movies were actually hated by people, like legitimately hated. I loved them. There were issues with them, I agree, but I still love those movies. I did reviews of them on my channel where I'm making fun of things that happen because that's something that I love doing. I like making fun of things, even things that I enjoy. I'll still mock them and make fun of them because it's fun. You know, you're not taking it that seriously. But I legitimately enjoyed it. David and Walter, like, oh my gosh. And everyone that I know hated that movie, and that did not stop me to this day from loving those movies. I will still go back time and time again and rewatch these movies more than I'll even watch the original Alien movies, which is weird. Ubisoft's over here, we kindly ask you not to spoil the experience for others. You've already spoiled everybody's experience by releasing these fucking games that you clearly did not have the passion to properly make. Honestly, you know what this feels like? This puts me in mind of like a freaking dead man gasping for his last breath, right? And like, you know how people say, oh, if someone's dying, you know, that's they're most dangerous. And he's using the last bit of strength that he has to grab onto anything in reach and try and squeeze the shit out of it, hoping that he drags everyone down with him. Maybe then he can delay the inevitable, or he'll take down some people. You know what? If I'm going down, none of y'all can't say anything. You can't make fun of me. And that's what Ubisoft is right now. They're in full-blown survival mode, and they're like clawing at people's faces and anything that gets near them. Keep my name out of your mouth. That's the kind of energy it's giving.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth!
As Will Smith can tell you, I'm sorry. That whole thing was weird, but yeah, from experience, we've seen that does not work. It never works. And when Assassin's Creed Shadows like finally drops and people see for themselves what it really is, all of this panicking would have been for nothing, or people could just enjoy the game. But think about how many people you put off to it by acting like this. Freaking wild. Anyway, let's see. It's like watching a sinking ship from a distance and you're just eating popcorn. Okay, you wouldn't be eating popcorn, but it's like, what would be interesting is seeing the ship sink and the people, the people on deck are like, oh my God, our ship is sinking. And then every freaking 2 seconds, you see them like puncture the hull with a freaking cannon, but they're doing it to their own ship. And then after they do that and release another cannon into their own ship, why is the ship sinking? Oh no! And then you're like, what the fuck is happening? Like, are they like capsizing their own ship and getting mad? And then when the people are like, hey dude, you're capsizing your own ship, what are you doing? They aim a cannon at you, like, shut the fuck up! You're harassing us! Like, I'm sorry, the imagery in my head is just so hilarious because that's what it feels like. Oh my God, I'm not feeling well today, but that just made me freaking laugh, man. This was great.
The irony of how a moral, grandstanding company like Ubisoft always seems to be the one projecting their own internal insecurities on society isn't lost on me.
But Ubisoft is apparently going through some kind of like lawsuit because they've been exposed for like Me Too allegations and stuff like that.